Question tonight, will Mukasey actually make it through the Senate? Tomorrow, the Senate Judiciary Committee votes on his nomination. Two key Democrats, Senator Chuck Schumer and Senator Dianne Feinstein, have both indicated they will vote for him. Many of the other Democrats on the committee, including Biden, Kennedy, Durbin, Leahy, and Whitehouse, have all said they will vote no. So does that mean he really makes it through the democratically controlled Senate without saying the words yes? Waterboarding is torture? Joining us tonight, MSNBC political analyst Pat Buchanan, Air America radio host Rachel Maddow, and counter-terrorism analyst Malcolm Nance, who has been waterboarded and instructs the U.S. Navy on how to resist waterboarding. Thanks very much to all of you for coming on. Appreciate it. All right. So, Rachel, does this mean as a practical matter that he is going to get through? And if so, what do you think of it?
Well, I think there's an effort right now to try to slow down this process. I think they set this timetable when they thought that he was going to zoom right through. There are now serious questions about Mukasey on two levels, one on the waterboarding issue, one on him saying that the president can break American law, which is a bizarre assertion for the guy who wants to be the top law enforcement official in the U.S. And I think that if they succeed in slowing it down, there's a chance it could be stopped.
All right, Pat, look, he still hasn't said those words that a lot of people wanted him to say, which is that waterboarding is torture. And yet, are you surprised that two of the Democrats on the Judiciary Committee seem to be caving?
Not too much surprise. I mean, Schumer suggested him for the U.S. Supreme Court, and then he praised him when he's nominated for Attorney General. He's got a very rough time, I think, going against that. Dianne Feinstein, I was surprised at. But if she's there and McCain's there, who has been tortured, I think he's home.
All right, let me read. This is what Chuck Schumer said. And Rachel, I want to ask you about this. Judge Mukasey is not my ideal choice. However, Judge Mukasey, whose integrity and independence is respected, even by those who oppose him, is far better than anyone could expect from this administration. Now, I don't get that, Rachel. I mean, that sort of is the language of someone who's not in the majority in the Senate, isn't it?
That's the language of somebody who's not interested in defending the constitutional role of the Senate in confirming these nominees. I mean, that's what you say if you see yourself and your Senate as a giant rubber stamping machine for the Bush agenda. Well, he's not Alberto Gonzalez. I mean, that's not good enough.
That is a cop-out, is it not,
yes,
Pat, from Schumer?
Look, no, I don't think so. Look, what's the point is that a majority of the United States senators are for Mukasey. Secondly, the Senate, as we've talked, Dan, does not have the courage to take tough decisions and responsibility for them. Now, you reject Mukasey, and the president is going to say, that's the last attorney general I'm sending up. You've got all the editorials, and many of them would pound the Democratic Senate and say you're obstructionist. And they said, as they did before, let's take a pass on this one. Yeah. That's your Senate, Dan.
All right, Malcolm Nance, look, you know, you're the only one of the four on this panel who has actually been waterboarded. So let me ask, any question in your mind about whether this is torture?
No, there's no question about this at all. I mean, there's an entire history of waterboarding that's going on from the beginning of time through the Middle Ages and the Vietnam War, and we've even heard reports of it happening in Burma. There's absolutely that this is a torture.
I mean, we're showing a demonstration from current TV, but I mean, describe for us, if you will, you know, I can sit here and tell you what happens, but tell me how it feels.
Well, I can tell you the first thing that goes through your mind when the water hits your sinuses and fills your throat and then pushes down past your esophagus and into your trachea, the first thing that happens is you think, I'm being tortured. It's definitive that you know that your body's processes are being degraded to the point where if it continues, you'll die.
All right, Dan, let me ask the gentleman. Look, do you believe that the Congress of the United States should officially say what is known as waterboarding, describe it, and say this is outlawed because this is torture? If they did that, we would have no problem. Do you think Congress ought to do that?
Yeah, they should have done that last year when they passed the legislation concerning interrogation for the U.S. Army. It should be across the board. You can't have a little bit of torture or a particular level of what you think is torture.
And look, and Rachel, I'm going to give you the final word on this because I want to talk about what's happening in Pakistan. But, you know, this is what those on the right have been saying is that, you know what, this isn't Mukasey's fault, this is Congress's fault.
the Congress should not have to assert this for the CIA or for anybody. The only explanation for why Mukasey says he doesn't know what waterboarding is so that he doesn't have to prosecute U.S. officials who ordered
no,
it.
And you know what? But Rachel, it's not even. Let's be clear. It's not. It's not the interrogators who would be prosecuted. It's potentially Attorney General Gonzalez. I mean, there is specific protections in the law in place that would protect the interrogators. They're not the ones who, if there were ever, no one's going to prosecute, but even if they were, it wouldn't be the interrogators. It would be the people who ordered it.
The people who ordered it, and the people who sent U.S. prisoners to other countries to be tortured deliberately in those countries too. It's all war crime stuff.
All right, Dan, we've been talking about this night after night after night. There are people who have different points of view. Why doesn't Congress stand up and at least now define it as they want? Again, we are dealing with the cowardice of the Congress of the United States. That's why we're arguing.
Pat, no, but what happens is you guys change the debate, and you say, you know what, because if we were talking about nails being removed, as we've discussed, Pat, you wouldn't say Congress has to pass a law that says...
Well, we don't agree on that. We don't agree on waterboarding.
What do you mean?
Everybody agrees on waterboarding.
Just because you don't want to agree, meaning just because you've decided that somehow there's an issue out there about waterboarding, doesn't mean the rest of us who are sane have to follow that.
All you sane guys, why don't you make it law and you can prosecute people? You can't do it by
I'm not interested in prosecuting. I'm interested in them stopping. That's it.
Well,
no, I'm not interested in the prosecution.
Make it illegal if you want to stop it.
Pat, torture is illegal. Torture is illegal.
Well, make the only problem here is people... What is the matter with you people?
Pat, waterboarding is torture.
Okay,
it's insanity to say it's not. That's the problem.
Write it into law.
All right, let me ask you, Pat, just real quick, I want to move on to Pat. Do you think it's torture?
I think when you have people on a table and make them think like they're drowning and they don't know if they're ever going to get up, that comes very close to it in my judgment. Certainly does, with his exception. If you're going to end it before they, before something critical happens, I don't know.
All right, well, look, Malcolm, real quick, there's no ambiguity as to what the procedure is, right?
No, there's no ambiguity. It doesn't matter whether you're doing it in that amateurish way that you showed in your video or a very professional way. Torture is torture.
All right, Malcolm Nance, thanks a lot. We really appreciate you coming on the program. I want to